There's a lot of big news that have come out this week. One of the stories in particular is we are getting a new Matrix movie. There's going to be a Matrix 4. That's what we're discussing in this episode of Legends of Podcasting. Now, joining me in the Wave Rider, we have
Stuart.
And I'm Rob.
And I'm Liam. So let's get into it. So announced this week is the news that there is going to be a fourth Matrix movie. Neo, Keanu Reeves, is coming back, and Trinity, she's returning as well. And one of the Wachowskis is returning to be the writer or producer for it. So we're getting some of the originals back in there. This wasn't a movie I think any of us saw on the horizon, but apparently this is a reaction to Keanu Reeves' really good year this year. So
it's just Keanu Reeves having the best year.
yeah, he's doing pretty well. I think John Wick kind of got his popularity back.
And the character he's in that computer game as well. Can't remember what it was.
What is the computer game?
Rob?
Oh, yeah.
He's
in Cyberpunk 2077. He suddenly appeared in that, and his reaction to being on stage at the E3 event got a lot of internet popularity. that blew him up as well. So.
And of course, the biggest bit of news that he's doing Bill and Ted 3 as well.
Oh, of course.
Yes, Bill and Ted 3, which, for anyone listening, you want to hear us talking about that, we do have another podcast episodes. Just search for our previous episodes, and you can find us talking all about Bill and Ted 3. But yeah, I mean, so look back at first Matrix movie. I saw that.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite films of all time. It's in my permanent top 10 because I saw it at just the right age. I had no idea what it was. The only thing I'd seen when it first came out was the "What is the Matrix" advert, and then I went and saw it, and it was brilliant.
Which was the best way of marketing a movie. That whole thing of what is the Matrix? No one can be told what the Matrix is.
No, you have to see what it is for yourself.
Yeah. And the posters were even just black with green writing and tons of that.
Green code on it,
marketing it. It was brilliant.
It was my first introduction to the concept of cyberpunk as a genre, and I was well hooked for about 3 or 4 years on that.
I probably think that might have been for me as well. First time seeing the whole cyberpunk thing.
Yeah, it was also the first movie that sort of did bullet time as well. Now, every movie does bullet time. Changed the way they do action movies.
The movie had a huge impact on movies in general. So yeah, the bullet time they were the first people to use it, and they did it fantastically. After that, you saw it in Swordfish, where they had the bullet time with I think a bit more movement or getting a bit more creative with it.
The less said about that, the Hugh Jackman feels happier.
Well, I think the coolest thing about that movie was their use of bullet time.
Oh really? I thought it was Halle Berry, but okay.
If you're into Halle Berry.
Okay.
But yeah, they did that, and also the cinematography in general with Matrix. It was. It was that was a very notable change. Their whole approach, which was to take a very comic book approach to the way that they were framing shots, which has had obviously a big impact moving forward. So the first Matrix movie was brilliant. I think I saw that 4 or 5 times at the movie theater. Because I think most people saw it at least more than once.
It was expensive back then as well. We didn't have any cinema cards.
Not back then.
But so that was the first movie. Matrix 2 and 3, Reloaded and Revelations or wherever it was. I saw them once in the movie theater for both of them, and that was enough. I own the trilogy. I mean, I still bought the trilogy.
I really enjoyed the second one. I think they mostly for the action scenes. Not gonna lie, the stairwell action's still probably one of my favorite fight scenes in any movie. Just the way, what we said before, the way it's shot, the way they just fight with weapons. They don't even look where they're fighting. It's meant to be obviously him being one with the Matrix and just being ahead of everyone. And the whole Agent Smith fight, even though it looks very CGI now, back when I first watched it, I was just oh my god, there's hundreds of Agent Smiths fighting Neo. This is amazing.
I would agree with that. I have watched the fight scenes since that, so I've rewatched those fight scenes a bunch of times because they were amazing. But to sit down and watch the whole movie, I haven't put the movie on, sat down, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch.
I watched both of them recently, and they're a victim of their own success. I think everyone jumping on board the first film and loving it so much is what caused the second one and third one to not quite be as good. They put too much in it, and I mean, I was watching some VFX artists talk about the Burly Brawl, the one with all the Agent Smith fight in the second one recently, and that was a breakthrough of technology for its time in sort of facial mapping and stuff like that. But the other two films just aren't my cup of tea. They're not as self-contained. The story is weird. And
it's like a part one, part two, isn't it? The second and third one. Actually.
The Architect. I got to the end of the second film, and the Architect just no, I've had enough. I'm going home.
I still don't fully understand anything he says. I've watched it quite a few times. I still have no idea what that man is talking about.
Just makes me think of that little sketch from the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh yeah,
Will Ferrell.
With Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Vis-a-vis.
I don't know what it means. I just thought it sounded cool. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah, but those Matrix, the second and third Matrix movies, that was the first time. They are the ones that are to blame for the fact that we get 2-part movies now. Part one,
probably,
part two. But that was really annoying, I think, for me. Like when you reach the end of the second movie and you're like, hang on, what do you mean? What? We're at the midway point. This movie doesn't finish its story, bastards.
Yep.
We now see that in a bunch of things.
To
get more money out of a franchise. But the story for The Matrix was completed within those 3 movies.
I was going to say, so how do you think they're bringing back Neo? Well, definitely how the hell they bring out Trinity, because she's definitely dead.
Well, Trinity's dead, so Neo is completely dead.
Well, Neo's dead, but they said will we see him again? And we of course we will, kind of thing. So somehow the
cycle of the one continues through the Matrix, but Neo the character is definitely dead as of the third movie, and so
that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I mean, if you're going to do a fourth movie, I kind of think you should like start again as like it says they reset. I know they're like at peace at the moment, the machines and the humans. But if you're going to do a fourth movie, why not just sort of reset the Matrix like they would usually do and bring in a new one and sort of do not the same story, but like a similar, like we find the one, blah blah, but it goes in a different direction rather than bringing back two dead characters somehow.
Yeah, they could do a Force Awakens kind of approach, which is like
shit.
You what?
I like Force Awakens. Last Jedi shit, not Force Awakens.
Force Awakens I enjoyed. But the point, the comparison I was making there is the fact that, well, she's looking for Luke. So you could have, in a Matrix 4, you could have like your new generation of people, basically a soft reboot of the franchise of people in the Matrix looking for Neo. And he's the point behind the movie. They're looking for the one they want to get to. I could see that. But the thing, I don't know. I mean, hearing this news, I'm kind of split on this in a sense that on one hand, I'm like, it's reminding me of how much I liked the first movie. And now I really want to rewatch the first one. And I probably will actually...
That's the argument I've always gotten whenever I bring up Highlander 2, is that we don't have to worry about that. You've always got Highlander 1 as well. And it's like, I mean, as much as I don't like the concept of a fourth Matrix movie, there's always the first one. I'm always going to have that. But like you say, Stu, I'd like to see... obviously, when Cyberpunk sort of went away, we got post-Cyberpunk literature and post-Cyberpunk stuff. I'd like to see the fourth one be post-Cyberpunk, as in, like you say, a continuation of the story from the end of the third film, where the humanity's no longer enslaved and they've kind of the machines are letting people live, but in a post-Cyberpunk future, and see how that works. And,
it'd be interesting. It's all weird because it's like you say, it was a trilogy. It's been finished for a long time. We don't need another one. And I was in exactly the same mindset for Toy Story.
Yep.
I was like, there's 3 Toy Stories. I don't need a 4th Toy Story. I went and watched the 4th Toy Story, and it's probably my favorite.
Really?
So I'm like, it's genius.
The fourth one. The fourth one's is your favorite one.
Yeah. It was great. It was really, really good, and it was a story I didn't know I needed until I watched it, and I was like, actually, that fully completes it. So, like, I'm kind of intrigued whether I'm going to have the same reaction to this Matrix movie. Like, I don't really need it, but I'll go and watch it, obviously, and then I'll be at the point of, oh my god, I'm so glad they made that because that was awesome.
Now,
I'm just going to take a quick moment to talk about our sponsor, Anchor. If you don't know what it is, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It literally has everything all in one place. You can record and edit all on your smartphone. You post the episodes to Anchor and it will distribute your podcast across all the main platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can make money from the podcast no matter how many listeners you have. And best of all, it's completely free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
For me, I did have the same thinking with regards to like Toy Story 4, that Story 4 in the sense that for me, Toy Story was completed in those 3 movies and it had the perfect ending at the end of 3. Yeah. And the 4th one was, I saw it, it was an enjoyable movie, but it was completely unnecessary, in my opinion. Completely unnecessary and just something done to make some money. And I'm hoping that isn't the case for Matrix 4. And I'm hoping it's going to be better, but part of me is thinking like, well, I kind of feel like Matrix 4 is now just like for the money. But at the same time, it is one of those things similar to like you were saying that you really like Toy Story 4. We get a lot of these things now where we're getting things that we never thought we wanted before, like Krypton as a TV show, and Gotham. Now
there's Pennyworth.
Pennyworth, which I still haven't watched any of that yet, so don't spoil it for me. But I know that
the first episode is fantastic.
So that's the thing. Like these are all things which we never knew we wanted, and now they've made it. And as they're making it, as with Pennyworth, we were like, why are you making Pennyworth? Why do we want a show about the butler? Like, what?
Again, that's something we never knew we wanted. But the flip side of the coin as well is that we've got Keanu back on board, Carrie-Anne back on board. You've got the Wachowskis potentially set to direct. The first Matrix was a passion project for them. They put their heart and soul into that, and it shows in the quality of the writing in the film and the things they produced. Mm-hmm. So providing you get some of the same crew back together, I don't know how many people come back on board, but the VFX guys, maybe some of the script writers, it could potentially be a great movie because there's a passion behind it rather than just a cash grab.
Yeah, I would think Keanu wouldn't sign up to it unless because I know he's a big believer in like that on the Matrix movies and what it did for his career and believes in it. So I don't think he would just jump on it to make money. I think he would only do it if the script was right and sort of he believed in it.
And so I do think, if I read the IMDb credits correctly, that with the Wachowskis, that they've continued to be the writers for just about every Matrix thing that's come out, including the computer games and anything and everything. They've remained the writers. So you have some consistency there. But then that does also bring in the concern of like, well, I mean, there's been a lot of time, but between the actual last movie and this one. But if you're happy with the way that they went with the movie, with the franchise, because it's probably not going to feel like the first movie.
No, I'm quite interested to see what kind of rating it's going to be. Whether they're going to, I don't know. I don't say we have to be R-rated, but it's sort of whether it's going to go more darker. Like a lot of other movies have gone. Back when Matrix was out, there wasn't really any dark, violent, bloody movies. I don't think. Could be wrong, but now that's sort of like the way that the world's going. So I'd be interested to see what rating it's going to be.
You know what? I think it would be nice if it doesn't go that way. The original movies, they have lots of fighting in it, but it's not a whole bunch of blood. And personally, I think it's a shame that everything like now has gone so gory all the time and everything is all getting darker. Don't get me wrong, I like Batman v Superman, the director's cut, which is very dark, but we don't need everything going dark all the time. Like I feel it's a shame and it heads that way. Same as we get a lot more gore, we get a lot more gore, a lot more sex, a lot more swearing, all of these things casually in so much more stuff now and in TV shows and that it's a shame. You end up with so many things. You can't watch as much stuff with your kids anymore.
No. You probably couldn't. Yeah. So you can watch The Matrix with your kids. Probably can't watch John Wick.
Yeah.
The original 3 Matrix films were all 15 rated. if this is a cash grab, but I'm not saying it is, then you want to market it to as many people as possible to make the most returns. So I could quite easily see it being 15. I don't know what that equivalent is in the States, but a sort of young teen rating. Keep it to that level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of stories do you got? I mean, just out of thin air, what would you do in the fourth movie? I know we said reboot it from start. Obviously, we've got Trinity and Keanu in there, so it's not going to be a complete reboot from scratch. I mean, what do you think? Is it going to be them in the real world, and they have to go into I don't know. I mean,
that's the thing. I mean,
mind blank.
The only interesting place you can go with it, rather than rehashing everything you've seen, is to bring it in, follow on from the Revolutions into the real world, where you've got the humanity and the machines hopefully living side by side, and then you can either have that develop into a unit, humans and machines living as cyborgs maybe, or go the other way, and you could have humans and machines falling out again due to differences and basically having the war happen again. I don't know. It's different.
Could you have something on the wavelengths of machines and humans live together, everything's fine, and the Matrix is sort of like a black market thing that's like a drug that people want to get into because it's you can get away from your real world.
That's an interesting thing. Then it's like Ready Player One in a way.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit.
Escape.
The whole point of the Matrix was that it was a simulation to keep humans subdued and not aware they were being part of the machine.
So they're now empower them. Yeah.
They're now all freed and in the real world. So surely they'd be using the Matrix as like a computer game, as a simulation or something to jump into. They're all got Matrix powers. They can do whatever they like with it.
So in a way, it's almost like doing a prequel to the Matrix, but as a sequel, because we're showing the rise of the Matrix and people's people getting all inserted into the Matrix.
Yeah, people wanting to go into it because they, I don't know,
so
could live a better life or stuff.
Is that you could go down the Inception or Existence angle of it, which is that
that's a shout out to a film from the past.
Yeah, but with the whole thing of a dream inside a dream inside a dream, you could be inside the Matrix inside of the Matrix. You could have different layers of it. So we could do a Matrix 4 where you start out and we think we're all in the real world, but the Matrix from the first 3 movies was the Matrix inside of the Matrix. And Neo never
so we think we're out of it,
and we find out that actually
it's a double bluff.
Yeah, when we find out we're not out of the Matrix at all.
We just think we are, but actually, that's trippy. I like it.
Yeah, so we could be in the real world, and then we could see an Agent Smith, and then that could be what triggers it. Or maybe it just starts off simply with deja vu, earlier on in the movie, we think we're in the real world, but then the viewer, not necessarily the character in the movie, we will spot some simple deja vu pop up, which will then throw that doubt in there of are we in the Matrix? And then
I remember that because whenever I get deja vu, I always go back to the Matrix and
the black
is
cat.
This actually the Matrix? Yeah, but all the time, every time anything happens, I'm like, God, I swear this happened before. I literally always reference the Matrix. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
just stuff. I wonder if Morpheus is going to show up in it as well.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne.
Because he's the only technical one that's actually still alive. But he hasn't been cast.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
You know what? He's such early days on it. I think there's still plenty of time for him to get cast.
Yeah, true.
He's working quite with Keanu Reeves in the John Wick franchise.
John Wick 4, isn't he? Yeah, so.
All right, so...
Very true.
So that's it. So that's the news we've got. Matrix 4. Obviously, there's very little news that is out on this at the moment. So, but these are our ideas. Let us know what you think of these ideas. And are you guys excited for a new Matrix movie? Do you not want a Matrix movie? Have you not even seen the Matrix movies? In which case, go and watch the first one at least right now. Wherever you are, just stop. Go watch it. And let us know in the comments what your thought is. And be sure, wherever you found this episode of the podcast, click that subscribe button so you get notified whenever we got new episodes released. And be sure you can find us on social media. Just look across pretty much any social media platform. Look for Legends of Podcasts and you can find us. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And also, you can head over to our YouTube channel where you can see lots of reaction videos to just about every TV show, geeky TV show, that's on TV at the moment. And you can also support us via Patreon. Just head over to Patreon, look for Legends of Podcasting, and you can support the show. So that's all from me.
It's all from me.
And that's everything from me. Now I have to unplug myself from the Matrix.